Muammar Gaddafi vowed to fight on today as U.S. and British submarines fired another 20 cruise missiles at targets in Libya. The Libyan leader appeared in public for the first time since the coalition attacks began on Saturday. Earlier, tanks and troops loyal to Gaddafi blasted the town of Zintan near the Tunisian border and the city of Misrata east of Tripoli. The U.S. Task Force commander, Admiral Samuel Locklear, said the coalition was considering all options on how to respond. We have a series of reports from Independent Television News, beginning with John Ray in Tripoli.
Coalition airstrikes are hitting home, and on the evidence shown to us by the Libyans themselves, destroying targets with precision. The twisted and charred metal is what remains after 6 Tomahawk cruise missiles smashed into a naval base, punching deep into concrete, leaving gaping craters. And long after last night's attack, fires still burn and the ruins smoulder. These are the remains of a multi-barrel rocket launcher, and although the Libyan authorities have talked repeatedly about civilian casualties, this was a purely military target, hit, it appears, with pinpoint accuracy. Some of the weaponry on display looks as old as the regime itself, and the Libyans insist this was merely a training facility.
Believe me, here, no any rocket, no any missile, no any bomb, just workshop here.
3 nights of bombing appear only to have inflamed the passions of Gaddafi's well-drilled followers. But look across Green Square and they barely fill a tiny corner. And even in the heart of the capital, among the fervour and the fear, we found one man brave enough to voice dissent.
You seem very scared. Yes, I am.
As we speak, his hands shake, but he wants to tell us the demonstrations we've been brought to witness are a sham. Tell me what the real Tripoli is.
Tripoli is against the regime.
This is Misrata, the last city in the west in rebel hands, scene now of a bloody last stand. The hospitals are full, the city is being shelled, its citizens picked off by snipers. And these are the bodies of 4 children from the same family. It's impossible to verify any of the horrors taking place here, but this is what one local doctor told us.
And they shoot their car. The 4 children, 2 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, are shattered. Unfortunately, something you couldn't see, you couldn't look, you couldn't see. I couldn't even look to them.
Gaddafi's defences are proving no match for Western military power, but his regime still stands, and it is still lethal.
The day also brought the first loss by U.S. forces since the Libya campaign began Saturday. A U.S. attack plane went down last night outside Benghazi. The U.S. military blamed mechanical failure, not hostile fire. Both crewmen were picked up safe and sound, but in the process, their rescuers mistakenly attacked friendly civilians. Martin Geisler reports on that incident and in the day's other developments in eastern Libya.
In a field outside Benghazi, a crowd gathers on the wreckage of an American F-15 fighter. It crashed early this morning. The pilots ejected unharmed, but the operation to collect them from inside friendly territory seems to have gone badly wrong.
Eyewitnesses here say a rescue helicopter came to pick up the pilots, but when its crew saw the crowd around the plane, they fired on them.
5 people were injured. They're being treated in hospital in Benghazi, but remarkably, they say they bear no grudges. If they'd just stopped shooting, we'd have escorted the pilot to safety, this man said. We were just trying to have a celebration for him. That kind of spirit and bravery runs right through the rebel ranks. These pictures show a government tank rolling into Benghazi on Saturday. A handful of men on foot took it on and won. It fired on them, but they stood their ground, and when they fired back with a rocket-propelled grenade, the tank's crew surrendered. But the rebels can't win this conflict with bravery alone. Even after the Allied airstrikes, this largely amateur army is outgunned by the government forces. The rebel advance has halted outside Ajdabia, where Gaddafi's troops have regrouped.
Where?
Operation room, Mike.
Your operation room?
And sleeping.
And what is
This ex-Air Force colonel is trying to coordinate the rebels' front line from the cab of his pickup truck. He told me he's been living here for 4 days.
You say you fight with your heart, but do you also need international help?
Yes, international help.
International help would make a massive difference, he said. And as the fighting continues, so too the stream of casualties. This man was called to the mortuary to identify his brother. Those caught in the gunfire aren't the only victims of this war.
The Libyan government insisted again today that large numbers of civilians are being killed in the coalition strikes. And in Moscow, Russian President Dmitry Medvedev said he's concerned about indiscriminate use of force. But after meeting with Medvedev, U.S. Defense Secretary Robert Gates rejected the criticism.
The vast majority, if not nearly all, civilian casualties have been inflicted by Gaddafi. Most of our targets, virtually all of our targets, are isolated, non-populated areas. It's almost as though some people here are taking at face value Gaddafi's claims about the number of civilian casualties, which, as far as I'm concerned, are just outright lies.
Both Russia and China called today for a ceasefire in Libya. Meanwhile, Spain and the Arab state of Qatar joined the coalition. And France called for a new steering committee working outside NATO to oversee the military operation. That would get around the divisions that have opened up within the alliance.
And we're joined now by Ambassador Ali Suleiman Aoujli. He was once Gaddafi's envoy to Washington, but denounced the Libyan leader after violence first broke out. He now maintains close communication with the opposition based in Benghazi. And welcome to you. Welcome again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
There is some, I want to ask you first about some late-breaking news. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, apparently in an interview with ABC, said that Gaddafi, she's hearing that Gaddafi may be exploring some exile options, although this is unconfirmed. Do you know anything about this?
Well, I hope so, but people, they know Gaddafi very well. That's maybe the last option. I never expect Gaddafi that he will leave the country alive.
You don't expect that?
I don't expect. I think Gaddafi has no place to go, and I don't think that he will be permit himself to be handled by the International Criminal Court of Justice. That is a very humiliation for him. I think he will maybe has to face his destiny. And if he agreed to leave Libya, I think this is the best thing he did in his own life, for his life, you know, and for the life of the people.
Let me ask you, it does, in these reports we're seeing, it does appear that his forces still they continue to be on the offensive, at least in some areas. What are the sources that you talk to in Libya? What are they telling you about how effective the bombing campaign has been so far?
Oh, the bombing is very effective. No, Saturday, if the coalition did not hit the convoy of the tankers heading to Benghazi, I can assure to you between 100 150,000 lives will be lost. And you can see the change of powers now. You see the situation is completely changed. Now the revolutions, they are marching toward the west. Now they are close to Libya. And the target which now have to be hit, where is surrounding Misrata, Zintan. These cities, they are under the siege of Gaddafi. Now some of his forces, they are inside the cities. Their snipers are there, and the people are suffering for the last 3 weeks. Something has to be done to break the siege again around these two cities.
But is there a command structure in place? Is there an organization in place among the opposition forces that can capitalize on whatever openings come from the bombing?
Well, of course, there is. That will be no problem. As far as we break the siege, then the people will come out and they will share. They will come together to stop the Gaddafi's forces from surrounding the cities, and they will open all the exit of the city, and they can move ahead.
But even to break the siege requires some command structure, some coordination of forces that are sometimes referred to as ragtag.
I think these two cities, they need help from outside. The people that are resisting the Gaddafi forces, not to let them inside the city. If it get inside the cities, these forces, they will mercy nobody they catch or they capture.
What kind of help from outside?
I think we need the coalition. They need to hit the forces of Gaddafi's outside of these cities. They have to discriminate, of course, between the friend and the enemy. Unfortunately, the regime forces now, they're taking a human shield from the neighboring villages to bring them to enter Misrata.
The U.S., of course, throughout has said there'll be no boots on the ground in the terminology. Have you asked for that? Do you foresee some circumstance where even smaller special forces or some kind of foreign forces could be called upon or needed?
Well, I think, you know, I believe this is was very clear from the beginning, that I think if we have foreign forces on the Libyan soil, that will be a problem not only for the Libyan, but will be a problem for the coalition. There are so many people, they have a different idea of the intervention of the international forces, even we ask for it. I think maybe for the special operation that something can be done quickly and they leave the soil, that maybe can be negotiable, and I think this is
smaller special operations forces.
Yeah, I think this is maybe required, you know, and I think this is have to be decided by the council, the interim council of Libya. But I think as far as there is no regular troops taking part in the fighting, that is my concern. You know.
Now, as you know, in this country, one of the continuing questions here has been, who exactly are we helping? Who makes up the opposition? I saw a quote from former U.S. diplomat Nicholas Burns, who put it quite bluntly. He says, we have to recognize this situation for what it really is, the first time in American history when we have used our military power to prop up and possibly put in power a group of people we literally do not know.
Well, I tell my friend Nick Burns, you are helping ordinary Libyan peoples. You are helping the people who raise against the regime. They are doctors, they are professors, they are students, they are workers, they are all the kind of the Libyan population they are there. You are not helping Al-Qaeda, you are not helping extremists. You are helping the people, the real Libyan people who are waiting for this moment for more than 40 years ago. And this is the time to help them. These questions have to be asked later, because you will never have a worse regime than what we have now.
But in helping them, are we also helping Islamic more extremist groups that you refer to, who are also want to get rid of Gaddafi?
Where is the extremist group in Libya? If Gaddafi talking about Al-Qaeda in Libya, then who brought them? Gaddafi brought them to uprise against him? This is an easy accusation Gaddafi's government is making, just to frighten the West, just to make them suspicious of what they are helping. You are helping ordinary people, ordinary Libyan people who've been suffering under this regime. Now they can see a light in the end of the tunnel. They have to make their life. And believe me, that the Libyans are very capable to have a democratic country, to have a real relation with the neighboring countries, with the West, with Africa, with the Arab. If this regime stay behind, West, America, and the coalition, they will suffer more than the Libyan.
Well, you've put it in, and the other way of asking it is, if the opposition wins, is it clear what is at the end of this? What kind of Libyan government there would be?
You will have a democratic government.
Democratic.
That's what the Libyan waiting. That's what the Libyan asking for, the help of the international community to get of this regime who hurt everybody, the close and the far, and they hurt West and East, and he's been cheating his people. What the forces loyal to Gaddafi is fighting for? Can you tell me? I will tell you the answer very quickly. They're fighting for one family to stay in power more than 42 years. Then who will support this regime? Who will have a sympathy to this regime? You are helping people who are trying to get, for the first time in their history since Gaddafi in power, to see the sun again. Libya is a big country with a small population. These people, they've been suffering for a long time. And I have seen, unfortunately, and hear so many debates talking about this is against the Constitution of the United States, this is costly. We told the international community, don't speak about cost, because we are a rich country, we'll take care of that. And this debate about constitution or not constitution is not the time for it. Now the mission have to be completed. Gaddafi must be out. That's now our goal. The coalition goal should be this one. Now, when we leave the debate later on, if this is constitution or not constitution.
All right, Ambassador Al-Juli, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.